In a shocking turn of events, the Jewish community is threatening to assassinate Donald Trump and commit acts of terror against the United States. Yesterday, Trump brokered a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. But as we know, according to the Israeli understanding, ceasefire means you cease, we fire. They were planning one final bombing run against Iran, but Donald Trump was having none of it. He went to social media and sternly told the Israelis, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. And he wrote it in all caps, which means he was really yelling with unrestrained rage. The Israelis didn't take too kindly to that kind of disrespect. I mean, really, who's the master and who's the slave in this relationship? So they took to Twitter to put Donald J. Trump in his place with threats of assassination, bombing the White House, Washington, D.C., and America as a whole. This Israeli account says, one symbolic bomb in Washington will remind Trump that he's not omnipotent and will restore our national honor. Just one symbolic bomb. Another Israeli account responds to the first one saying, one Iranian bomb in Washington in an open area. This Israeli account, if Israel theoretically decides to attack America, theoretically, what should be the opening? The White House? Silicon Valley? Interesting bases? This account says, all the terrorist cells created in the US will surely soon begin to awaken, especially if this whole day isn't one big troll. What terror cells are you talking about? Has Israel been creating terror cells in the United States? And they're going to be awakened to commit acts of terror against the American people? This Israeli says, we did it on some Tuesday in September, didn't we? Referring to 9/11. That's what they say. This account says, if we decide to bomb America, if we suddenly decide to drop 400 to 500 atomic bombs on them all at once, it could be that we'll rule the world. It could be that we'll reach our destiny. That will be a light unto the nations, that women will dance in the vineyards, dancing Israelis. They'll break into dances, we'll build the temple, we'll offer sacrifices. Maybe that's how it should be. Nuking America. In the worst case scenario, we can bombard Trump. Did this not ring any alarm bells in the US government? Apparently, you can make threats like this against the president, against the US government, and there's not going to be any consequences for you or your community. Unless you're Muslim, of course. If you're Muslim, it doesn't even matter if you denounce terrorism. It doesn't even matter if you've never even thought about committing a crime in your entire life. You're still going to be put on a watch list. You're still going to be surveilled. You're still going to be discriminated against just because you're Muslim. How do you think the US government will react to these terror threats being publicly posted on social media by the Jewish community? Will they launch an investigation into the Jewish community, maybe surveil synagogues or detain rabbis for questioning? I ask this because as an American Muslim, this is exactly what the US government did to American Muslims post 9/11. As we all know, Muslims had nothing to do with 9/11. Wait, are we allowed to say that on YouTube? As I said, Muslims had nothing to do with 9/11, but we were framed for it anyway. This led to a massive crackdown against Muslims by the US government, by the mainstream media, by academic and cultural institutions. Muslims were discriminated against. We were put on no-fly lists. We were profiled. We were surveilled. Imams were detained. Many imams were deported for committing no crimes at all, just for being Muslim imams. Bank accounts were seized. The FBI sent agent provocateurs to entrap Muslims in terror plots that they created. We had to endure intensified screenings at the airport, at the border. And let's not forget all the Muslims that were detained and put in Guantanamo Bay or put in solitary confinement and essentially tortured. What's called advanced interrogation techniques. Muslims like Sister Afia Siddiqui and others. All of this oppression against Muslims, even though Muslims are the loudest in denouncing terrorism and denouncing terror groups. Many of us know now, of course, that the demonization of Islam and Muslims was for the purpose of driving public support for wars in the Middle East, constant wars on behalf of Zionism and the State of Israel. Zionists were the main culprits in spreading anti-Islam, anti-Muslim hate in the West. People like Daniel Pipes, Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, David Horowitz, Sam Harris, Bill Maher, Jeffrey Goldberg, Bill Kristol, other neocons, other Zionists, many of them. Not to mention the Zionists that were in the US government itself, pushing these anti-Muslim policies. Now, in 2025, we see members of the Jewish community openly posting assassination threats, bomb threats, threatening to nuke America. But there are no consequences for this. Do we see any kind of consequence from the US government to deal with this terror threat? And for those who want to claim that the difference is that Islam actually endorses terrorism, but Judaism doesn't, I've already debunked the claim that Islam endorses terrorism in this video. And in this video, I show how modern Jewish religious figures do justify terrorism against the enemies of Israel and the Jewish community on the basis of religious texts. And the majority of Israeli society actually supports attacks on civilians and attacks on women and children. Recent polls about Gaza show that the more religious elements of Jewish society in Israel are more in support of mass killings. Muslims have suffered a great deal, past and present, whether they're Muslims in America, whether Muslims in Palestine or the Middle East or the broader Ummah. There has been no accountability for these injustices, but we know that Allah promises us His ultimate justice. فذوقوا بما نسيتم لقاء يومكم هذا إنا نسيناكم وذوقوا عذاب الخلد بما كنتم تعملون. Allah says, so have a taste because you had forgotten the meeting of this day of yours. We have forgotten you, and taste the eternal punishment for what you used to do.